Chapter 13. You can't con an ex-con. I can't even begin to express the amount of shame, self-guilt, self-hate, condemnation, hurt, and grief that I was carrying around on my shoulders. All of these are demonic entities, and this group of demons were having more than a party. They were having a heyday. I felt like running away, but there was no place I could hide. When I walked into restaurants, the woman around the tables would point and start gossiping about me. It was not drug-induced paranoia, it was real, and I was not imagining it. Suicide was never an option because I feared going to hell again. Harold was taking advantage of the situation as well and begged me to let him quit his job. He could not stand dealing with Jim, and it was a great excuse to sit home even more and do nothing constructive. He acted like he was hurt, but the truth was it was a great out for him. Now he could use the "you've done me dirty" trump card as his excuse. Our church sent another pastor, an older, gracious gentleman. I was very upfront with him about what happened, and I did not hide anything from him. Harold was still the church accountant, which was an unpaid position. The pastor stayed a brief period of time and left because of health problems and wanting to retire. He and his wife were very sweet, but were not cut out to fight the demonic realm that dominated that region. Once again, the upper echelon of this denomination sent another pastor. For 3 months, everybody, including Harold and I, liked the guy. He seemed to be on fire, charismatic, and prophetic. His name was Lance. Our church had a great credit rating in the community, and we were in the process of remodeling the parsonage for the pastor. Harold came to me one day and said, "I think the pastor is embezzling money. There's money gone that I can't account for." I said, I was having the same gut feeling, but didn't want to say anything to you yet. Our suspicion was confirmed when the pastor came over to the house one evening with his daughter's boyfriend. He had a check that he wanted Harold to sign, and he claimed that it was going towards one of the charge cards held by the church. He told us that he was going to take the check and pay off the account in full. However, he wanted Harold to make the check out to him personally. Harold did so against his better judgment, and Lance walked joyfully out of our home with the other guy. Oh yeah. For the first time in our miserable plastic marriage, Harold and I agreed on something wholeheartedly. This guy was a crook. He was a professional con man that could not look me in the eyes. The only reason he brought the boyfriend of his daughter was to divert attention off of what he was asking us to do. I remember saying to Harold after he left, "Does he think we just fell off the Turner truck or what?" Harold laughed and said, "Yeah, really." I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in fate, but I do not believe that anything happens by chance. It just so happens to be that the credit card company that the pastor claimed to have paid off was the exact financing company that I used in the water business. I'll leave names out. I was very familiar with this company and its procedures, and I used it daily to get the water purification equipment financed. Without telling my husband, I took his master key to the church and I went into the pastor's office. I opened up the front drawer and I found a bank statement with Lance and his wife's information. The bank statement included both his wife's and his Social Security numbers. I quickly wrote them down with their full names and put the statement back in his drawer. I then booked out of the office. It was my version of Watergate. Get it? I already had his date of birth and full name because he had recently had a birthday. Several weeks later, I called up the finance company to inquire about the church charge account in question that was supposedly been paid off by the pastor. I said that I was Lance's wife, and I was simply calling to confirm that they had received the check in full. I gave the Social Security numbers and dates of birth for the company's security purposes. The woman taking the call pulled up the account and told me that the account had not been paid off and that there was still a remaining balance of over $4,000. I knew it. I have a saying, you can't con an ex-con. Lance had met his match with me. I then took the proof to Harold and told him what I had done. At first he was mad, but then realized it had to be done to prove the guy was crooked. We wanted to do things in the proper manner. We had called in one of our friends to be a witness. He also had seen the proof and also believed that Lance was a thief. We asked Lance and his wife to come over to our home, and we confronted him with the evidence. He did not come clean. He went ballistic, and he called me every name in the book. I remember as he was leaving our home, I said to him, Lance, I pity you for stealing God's money. We then took it to the next level. We called the overseer. He was brought in on the deal. We told him our part of the story and gave him the proof. The overseer was told by the upper echelon of this denomination to cover it up and make it look like we simply wanted to get rid of Lance. By this time, word had traveled amongst the congregation of what I had done in the office and that Lance was being accused of theft. The overseer came in on an evening service and made it appear that Lance had done nothing wrong, and Harold and I were simply bad people that were trying to get rid of him. The pastor instructed Harold to give the overseer a check for $500 for his intervention that night. That evening, I stormed out of the church, and Harold resigned his position as accountant. A few other people that knew the truth left as well. The people had been warned. The problem is they didn't listen to or care for the ones giving the message.